That morning, the sunbeams filtering through the blinds of the kitchen window couldn't warm Stella's heart. Her gaze was empty, fixed on a brown manila envelope lying silently on the dining table. The envelope bore the official logo of the family court of the state of New York. Stella's hand shook violently as she slowly reached for it. Her heart pounded, as if it already knew the grim news hidden inside. It had been 3 weeks since Gabriel had come home. Her husband. The man who once promised to be faithful in good times and bad when they were both starting from zero, had changed completely. Ever since his career as a young associate attorney began to take off and his name started gaining traction in Manhattan, Gabriel's attitude had turned ice cold. He rarely answered his phone, frequently made excuses about working late at the firm, and the breaking point came when he moved out without even saying goodbye. Holding her breath, Stella tore open the envelope. Her eyes scanned the lines of text on the white paper. A summons for a divorce hearing. The date was tomorrow morning. Stella's chest felt tight, as if the oxygen in the room had suddenly vanished. Her tears fell, staining the paper that stood as proof of her failed marriage. The tears hadn't even dried on her cheeks when her phone buzzed. An incoming text. Gabriel's name appeared on the screen. That name used to make Stella smile, but now it only brought a sharp pain to the pit of her stomach. She opened the message with trembling fingers. "You got the letter, right? Don't forget to show up tomorrow. I expect you to cooperate, Stella. Don't make a scene and don't complicate things." The message was so cold, lacking even a basic greeting, as if she were a total stranger. Stella took a deep breath, trying to muster what was left of her courage to reply. "Gabriel, why does it have to be like this? Can't we just talk first? I have a right to know what I did wrong for you to divorce me so suddenly." It didn't take long for Gabriel's response to arrive. This time it was longer, but every word was like a razor cutting into Stella's heart. "Talk. We don't have anything left to talk about. Stella, get real. Look at me now, then look at yourself. I'm a senior associate at a top-tier law firm. I meet with high-level clients, CEOs, and city officials every day. And you? You're just a plain housewife who only knows about the kitchen and the bedroom. You're not on my level anymore. Taking you to firm events would just be an embarrassment. You can't adapt to my world." Stella collapsed weakly into her chair. Her heart shattered at her husband's cruel confession. She remembered the hard times before, when Gabriel was still in law school, and they had to split a single meal because all his money went toward textbooks and bar prep. It was Stella who worked overtime as a freelance seamstress for the neighbors late into the night to help pay his tuition. It was Stella who encouraged him every time he failed his exams and nearly gave up. "You forgot who stood by you when you had nothing," Stella wrote through her sobs. "Who tailored your first suit for your job interview? It was me, your wife." "Don't talk about the past," Gabriel replied instantly. "That was your duty as a wife, to support your husband. And I've already paid you back by providing food and a decent place to live all this time, haven't I? So we're even. Listen closely, Stella. At the hearing tomorrow, I want you to accept all the divorce terms without objection. As for the marital assets, forget it. The house, the car, the savings, everything is in my name. You have no real financial contribution to them. So don't even try to claim a division of property." Stella was speechless. How calculating he had been. The modest house they lived in, the down payment had come from Stella's savings, earned from sewing day and night before Gabriel ever found success. But before she could finish typing her reply, Gabriel called. Stella answered with shaking hands, desperate for an explanation. "Hello?" Her voice was hoarse and weak. "Listen, Stella." Gabriel's voice was loud and intimidating. "Don't try to resist. I'm a lawyer, I know every loophole. If you dare to claim assets or make this divorce difficult, I promise you won't get a single cent. I'll expose every single one of your flaws in front of the judge. It'll humiliate you so badly that no one will ever want to be your friend again." "What flaws, Gabriel? I've served you all this time. I never did anything wrong," Stella sobbed. "I can find mistakes. That's my specialty," Gabriel shouted arrogantly. "I can twist the facts until you look guilty. So if you want a quiet life after this, do as I say. Show up tomorrow, not in front of the judge, sign the papers and get out of my life. Just take your clothes. Everything else is mine." The call clicked off. Stella dropped her phone on the table. The room felt suffocating. She looked around the modest home she had cared for with love over the last 5 years. The walls she had painted herself, the curtains she had sewn, everything bore her touch. And now Gabriel wanted to strip it all away, because he felt she was no longer worthy of him. His success was built on her prayers and her sweat. That pain slowly turned into a crushing weight in her chest. She felt so small and helpless. Her opponent was her own husband, a lawyer skilled in legalities and manipulation. What could a simple woman do? She couldn't afford a lawyer of her own. She didn't know anyone influential. Yet, in the depths of that despair, Stella caught her reflection in the mirror. Her face was swollen, her eyes red. Should I just give up like this? She asked herself. Suddenly, she remembered her late mother's words. Be a strong woman and keep your dignity. No, Stella whispered, wiping her tears away. I might be poor now, and I might not have a fancy degree like Gabriel, but I have my dignity. I won't let him trample me anymore. He can have the property, but I won't let him destroy my self-respect. That night, Stella couldn't sleep. She spent the hours packing her clothes into an old duffel bag. She wouldn't take any of the belongings if that's what he wanted, but she would go to that courthouse with her head held high. She would face him. She would show him that while he could divorce her, he couldn't break her soul. Tomorrow was the day. Stella zipped the bag. She had no money for an Uber because Gabriel had blocked her access to their joint savings account. Gabriel had taken the only car a week ago. I'll take the bus, she murmured. It's fine. She was used to public transit from the days before Gabriel made it big. Outside, the night wind blew hard, a harbinger of the storm she would face. Stella closed her eyes, praying for the strength to survive the day. Unbeknownst to her, a different scenario was already being prepared. A meeting that neither she nor Gabriel could have ever imagined. The morning sun was already scorching as Stella stood before her mirror, adjusting a simple cream-colored scarf that had faded from too many washes. It was a gift Gabriel had given her 5 years ago when he got his first paycheck as a paralegal. Back then, he gave it to her with love. Now, it was just a silent witness to her fall from grace. She chose a modest floral dress and wore no jewelry. She had already taken off her wedding ring and tucked it into a drawer the night before. The symbol of their sacred union felt too heavy now that the bond was being forcibly severed. She tried to hide her swollen eyes with a bit of powder. Stella stepped out of her starter home and locked the door carefully. She knew she might soon have to hand over the keys. As she walked toward the gate, she saw several neighbors gathered near a grocery delivery truck. She tried to keep her head down, but it was no use. Oh, look, there goes Stella, one woman whispered loudly enough to be heard. All dressed up so early. Where's she off to? I heard she's going to divorce court, another neighbor replied with obvious glee. Poor thing. And after her husband became such a successful attorney. He's driving a new luxury car every other month. And she's walking to the bus stop. Maybe she did something wrong, another added. Rich men usually want someone on their level. Maybe she didn't keep herself up, so he found someone better looking. Those words stung like needles. Stella wanted to scream. To tell them she sacrificed her youth and energy to build his career. She didn't keep herself up because she was saving every penny to buy Gabriel expensive shoes and suits, so he wouldn't feel ashamed in front of his wealthy clients. But she chose silence. She quickened her pace, leaving the gossiping neighbors behind. The walk to the bus stop was nearly a mile. Luxury cars zoomed past her, reminding her of the one Gabriel now drove. She used to sit in the passenger seat, listening to him brag about the cases he'd won. Now she was just a pedestrian covered in dust and sweat. The fear in her chest was worse than the heat. She imagined the cold, formal courtroom. She saw Gabriel in his custom suit, flanked by high-priced colleagues, ready to shred her dignity with legal jargon she didn't understand. What if the judge believes his lies? What if I'm left with nothing? Where will I live? The anxiety was a monster eating her alive. At the stop, she sat on a rusted metal bench, waiting for the city bus to the courthouse. Around her, people were buried in their phones or lost in thought. A sleek black Mercedes slowed down in front of the stop. Stella recognized the plates. It was Gabriel's car. Her heart stopped. The car glided past with an air of arrogance while she waited for a bus that was late. God, she prayed, if this is the only way, give me strength. Don't let me crumble before his pride. Send me some help today so I don't feel so alone. Finally, the bus arrived, belching black smoke. It was packed. Stella braced herself for an uncomfortable ride. She boarded, unaware that her prayer was about to be answered in the most unexpected way. The air inside was stifling, a mix of sweat and exhaust. Stella stood squeezed between a man with a large bag and a group of noisy students. Her legs ached as the driver navigated the city streets aggressively. In front of her, the priority seating was full of teenagers staring at their phones or wearing headphones, pretending not to see the pregnant woman or the elderly man struggling to hold onto the handrail nearby. The bus lurched to a stop near a busy market. An old man tried to board with great difficulty. His hair was white, his frame thin, and he wore a faded plaid shirt and trousers that were too big for him. His wrinkled hands trembled as he reached for the high step. Come on, Pops, hurry it up. We're on a schedule. The driver barked. No one moved to help him. The other passengers looked on with annoyance, seeing the old man only as a delay. The man finally got a footing, but before he could grab a rail, the driver floored it. The bus jolted forward. The man lost his balance and stumbled backward toward the open door. Watch out! A woman screamed, but she didn't move.
Stella reacted instantly.
Forgetting her own sorrow, her instincts took over. She pushed through the crowd and caught the old man's arm just before he fell out of the vehicle. Careful, sir! Stella exclaimed, bracing his weight with all her strength. Her grip was firm, saving him from a potentially fatal accident. The man was in shock, his face pale. Thank you. Thank you, dear, he said, his voice raspy. You're welcome. Lean on me. Stella scanned the bus. No seats. She turned to a young man in a priority seat who was playing a game on his phone. Excuse me, Stella said firmly. Could you give your seat to this gentleman? He can't stand. The young man looked up with an eye roll, huffing as if had been deeply inconvenienced, and moved to the back. Sit here, sir, Stella guided him gently. Only once he was settled did she let go. The man exhaled in relief, rubbing his trembling knees. He looked up at Stella, who was now standing beside him, holding the back of his seat. Thank you again. If you hadn't been there, I might have rolled right out the door, he said. Now Stella could see him clearly. Despite the wrinkles and the worn clothes, there was a sharp, serene intelligence in his eyes. A strange sense of dignity emanated from him. It's no trouble, sir. We're supposed to help each other out, Stella replied politely, shifting her bag to hide her ringless left hand. It's rare to find young people who care like you do these days, the old man murmured. He looked her over, noting her simple but tidy clothes, her kind face, and the deep cloud of sadness in her swollen eyes. The man, whose name was Silas, was not just a random passenger. However, today he had purposely left his luxury sedan and private driver at home. He wanted to remember his past, the days when he fought for justice from the ground up, feeling the pulse of the people he used to defend in his rulings. He hadn't expected an accident, and he certainly hadn't expected to be saved by a woman who looked like she was carrying the weight of the world. Dear, where are you going all dressed up on a bus? Silas asked, trying to start a conversation.
Stella hesitated.
She wasn't used to venting to strangers, especially about something as shameful as divorce. I have a matter to attend to, sir, she replied diplomatically, her lips stiff. Silas nodded, sensing her reservation. But his eyes, which had spent decades reading faces in courtrooms, saw right through her. He saw anxiety, fear, and profound grief. Your face is clouded, child, Silas said softly, like a father. A good person like you doesn't deserve to look so sad. That simple sentence broke her. The walls she had built all morning crumbled. In the middle of the noisy bus, his sincere attention made her eyes burn. She turned toward the window, fighting back tears. As the bus lurched through traffic, the conversation between Stella and Silas continued, creating a small pocket of peace. I'm going to the family court, sir, Stella finally whispered, her eyes fixed on her worn shoes. Silas grew serious. Not to file someone else's marriage certificate, I assume? Stella shook her head with a bitter smile. No. To end my own. Today is the first hearing. A moment of silence passed. My husband doesn't want me anymore, Stella continued, a tear finally escaping. He's successful now. He says I'm not worthy of him. That I'm an embarrassment to his career. Silas' jaw tightened. His hand gripped the head of his wooden cane. Having spent decades in the legal world, he had seen this story many times. The classic tale of the man who forgets the person who helped him climb the ladder. He's a fool, Silas said firmly. Stella looked at him, surprised by his directness. Child, there are many people in this world with broken eyes, Silas said philosophically. They get dazzled by shards of broken glass reflecting the sun, thinking they are jewels. To chase that glass, they throw away the genuine diamond they've held for years. Your husband is one of them. He's so blinded by the glass that he's forgotten he just threw away the most valuable diamond of his life. Stella was stunned. Gabriel had made her feel like trash, but this stranger of 10 minutes was calling her a diamond. But I'm not a diamond, sir, she objected. I'm just a common woman. No degree, no money, and am not beautiful like the women he works with. Beauty and titles fade, Silas interrupted. But a sincere heart that stops to help an old man when she's in the middle of her own crisis, that is a rare luxury. That is the true diamond. And mark my words, one day your husband will cry tears of blood when he realizes what he let go today. His words were like fresh water on a parched soul. For the first time, Stella felt valued as a human being. Thank you, sir. You are very kind, she said, wiping her eyes. Save your tears, Silas told her. Don't cry for someone who doesn't know your worth. Hold your head up. You did nothing wrong. Family court. Next stop, family court. The driver yelled. Stella stood up. I have to get off here, sir. She reflexively reached out to help him. Where do you get off? Let me help you move so you're comfortable. Silas stood up slowly. I get off here too, child. I have a little matter of my own to settle. Oh, please don't trouble yourself on my account, Stella said. It's no trouble. I want to make sure you walk in there with your head held high. Consider it my way of paying you back, Silas said with a stubborn smile. They stood on the sidewalk before the imposing courthouse. The sun was hot, but Silas' presence gave Stella a strange sense of security. She wasn't arriving as a loser anymore. Inside the lobby, the air felt heavy with the collective grief of couples coming to part ways. Silas walked beside her, his cane clicking rhythmically on the tile. Their contrast drew stares. A young woman in a simple dress next to an old man in worn clothes. Near the reception desk, Stella stopped. Sir, thank you for everything. If you have your own business, please don't let me keep you. My hearing might take a while and it's not a pleasant atmosphere. Silas smiled. Stella, an old man like me has nothing but time. It's hot outside and cool in here. Let me sit in the waiting area and rest my legs. But sir, when my husband arrives he might be rude. He's temperamental when things don't go his way. Silas' face turned serious. That's exactly why I want to be here. I want to see for myself what kind of man throws away a woman as good as you. Don't worry about me. I've lived a long time. A young man's shouting won't give me a heart attack. Stella nodded, feeling like she had a father there to protect her. They sat in the waiting area. A security guard eyed Silas with suspicion due to his appearance, but the old man sat with his chin up, indifferent to the stares. Stella twisted the hem of her dress, her eyes searching for Gabriel. Take a deep breath, Silas whispered. Don't let him see you tremble. If you look weak, he's already won. Did you ever go through something like this? Stella asked. Silas looked at a painting of the scales of justice on the wall. I've seen thousands of people cry in buildings like this. Some from regret, some from pain, and some from the joy of finally being free. Divorce is painful, but sometimes it's the door to true happiness. God breaks your heart today to save your soul tomorrow. Case A15. Petitioner and respondent, please prepare to enter. The announcement echoed. It wasn't her case yet, but it meant her time was close. Then she heard it, the sharp click of expensive dress shoes on the floor. Steps full of arrogance. He's here, Stella whispered, turning pale. A handsome but arrogant young man in a designer suit and silk tie strode toward them. Behind him was another man carrying a thick briefcase. His lawyer. Gabriel walked like he owned the building, looking neither left nor right. Silas narrowed his eyes, his hand tightening on his cane, not out of fear, but out of a simmering anger at the young man's hubris. So that's the one, Silas thought. Let's see how high he flies before his wings clip. Stella looked down, but Gabriel had already seen her. A mocking smile spread across his face as he changed direction, heading toward her with a look of pure contempt, ready to crush her spirit before the hearing even began. Gabriel didn't even notice the shabby old man sitting beside her, watching him like an eagle watches its prey. The sun was climbing higher, but the temperature in the lobby of the family court felt freezing to Stella. Gabriel stood directly in front of her, his posture radiating an arrogance that seemed to fill the entire room. The scent of his expensive cologne, which used to be familiar, now made her stomach churn. It was the scent of the stranger he had become. Standing beside Gabriel was another man, equally polished. He clutched a leather briefcase with a smug expression, adjusting his designer glasses while looking at Stella with pure condescension. "Well, look at that," Gabriel began, his tone sarcastic and sharp. He spoke loudly, intentionally drawing the attention of everyone nearby. "You actually showed up. I thought you'd be hiding in a bathroom stall somewhere, crying too hard to face me." Stella took a deep breath, trying to keep her back straight. She remembered Silas' words. "Don't look weak. I'm here because it's a legal obligation, Gabriel." "I respect the court summons," she replied softly but clearly. Gabriel scoffed, a short, mocking laugh escaping his lips. "Respecting the law? Listen to you. Take a look at yourself, Stella. You look disheveled. How did you even get here? Did you hitchhike or take the bus with the rest of the losers?" He didn't wait for an answer. He gestured toward the man beside him. "This is Mr. Henderson, one of the most aggressive divorce attorneys in New York. He doesn't lose. So, if you have even a grain of sense left in that head of yours, you'll sign whatever he puts in front of you. Don't waste the judge's time trying to play the victim, Mr. Henderson nodded curtly. "My client is being generous by not suing you for legal fees, Mrs. Miller. I suggest you cooperate." Stella felt a lump in her throat, but before she could falter, she felt a firm hand on her shoulder. It was Silas. He had stood up slowly, leaning on his cane. Gabriel finally noticed the old man. He looked Silas up and down. The faded shirt, the worn-out trousers, and a look of pure disgust crossed his face. "And who is this? Did you pick up a homeless guy on the way here to be your witness? Get him away from me, Stella. He smells like the subway." Stella's face flushed with anger. "Gabriel, stop it. This gentleman helped me." "I don't care," Gabriel interrupted, stepping closer to Silas with a menacing look. "Listen, old man, this is a place for important people with real problems. Move along before I have security throw you out for loitering." Silas didn't flinch. In fact, a small cold smile appeared on his lips. He straightened his back and suddenly the shabby old man seemed to grow in stature. The weary look in his eyes vanished, replaced by a piercing, authoritative gaze that Stella hadn't seen before. "Young man," Silas said, his voice no longer raspy but booming with a resonance that silenced the lobby. "It is a grave mistake to judge a book by its cover. But it is an even greater sin to treat the woman who built your foundation with such cowardice." Gabriel laughed harshly. "Who do you think you're talking to? I'm a senior associate at Sterling and Associates. I know every judge in this building. You're nobody." Silas slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver pin. He pinned it to his lapel. It was the emblem of the American Bar Association, but with a specific gold laurel signifying 50 years of distinguished service. Mr. Henderson, the hotshot lawyer, suddenly froze. His eyes widened behind his glasses. He leaned in closer, squinting at the old man's face. His face went from arrogant to pale white in 3 seconds. "Gee, Gabriel," Henderson whispered, his voice trembling. "Shut up. Shut up right now." "What? Why?" Gabriel snapped. Henderson ignored him and stepped forward, dropping his briefcase to the floor. He bowed his head deeply. "Justice. Justice Silas Vane? Is it really you, Your Honor?" Gabriel's jaw dropped. The name hit him like a freight train. Silas Vane wasn't just a lawyer. He was a retired senior justice of the state Supreme Court, A living legend whose textbooks Gabriel had studied in law school, and a man whose recommendation could make or break any firm in the country. You recognized me, Henderson, Silas said coldly. I remember you. I nearly disbarred you 5 years ago for unethical conduct in a corporate merger. It seems you haven't changed your company. Gabriel felt the floor beneath him turn into quicksand. His knees actually buckled. He looked at Stella, the woman he had just called a loser, and then at the man standing guard over her. Your Honor. I didn't know, Gabriel stammered, his voice going up an octave. It's a personal matter. It became a professional matter the moment you threatened to twist facts and humiliate a witness, Silas barked. I heard your conversation on the bus, Gabriel. I saw the way you treated a woman who, from what I gather, paid for the very suit you're wearing. The lobby was silent. Everyone was watching the powerful lawyer wither under the gaze of the old man in the plaid shirt. Stella, Silas turned to her, his voice softening. You don't need to worry about property division anymore. I have a few former clerks who are now partners at the top firms in the city. They owe me a favor. They will represent you pro bono. We will ensure that every cent of the equity in that house, and a fair share of his future earnings, is secured for you. Gabriel looked like he was about to faint. Your Honor, please. If word of this gets back to my firm. Oh, it will, Silas said. I'm having lunch with the senior partner of Sterling and Associates tomorrow. I think he'll be very interested to know how one of his associates represents the integrity of the firm. Gabriel sank to his knees, right there on the courthouse tiles. Stella, Oni. I was stressed. I didn't mean it. Let's go home and talk. We can fix this. Stella looked down at him. For the first time in years, she didn't feel fear. She didn't even feel anger. She felt pity. He looked so small, so pathetic, kneeling in his expensive suit. No, Gabriel, Stella said, her voice firm and calm. You were right about one thing. We aren't on the same level. But you were wrong about who is beneath whom. My dignity isn't for sale, and it certainly isn't something you can take away. She turned to Silas and smiled. Thank you, Justice Vane. Not just for the legal help, but for helping me see the diamond. You always were one, Stella, Silas said, patting her hand. Now let's go find those lawyers of yours. I believe we have a hearing to attend, and I'd like to sit in the front row. Stella walked into the courtroom with her head held high, leaving a broken Gabriel and a terrified Henderson behind in the lobby. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. Stella kept the house and received a settlement that allowed her to open her own boutique tailoring studio. Gabriel was fired from his firm within a week and found himself blacklisted from every major law office in New York. He ended up working as a junior clerk in a small town, far from the bright lights of Manhattan. Stella often saw Silas. He became a mentor and a grandfather figure to her. And every time she took the bus, she made sure to look for someone who might need a helping hand, knowing that a single act of kindness can change the course of a life forever. Thank you for listening to my story all the way through. If it resonated with you, give it a like, comment on what touched you the most, and be sure to mention where you're from. Subscribe to the channel. There are plenty more stories to come.